Hi, my name is Lyric, and today we are going to be reacting to a detailed look at Kobe Bryant's on-court impact, Greatest Peaks, Episode 10 by none other than Thinking Basketball. Now we're continuing the Greatest Peaks series. I decided to stop. Okay, so new format for this. I'm gonna stop doing like all the GOAT seasons for each player. Mainly because the next one, GOAT season on Kobe, is an hour and 42 minutes long. I'll be for real with you. I don't want to sit here and watch an hour and 42 minutes of Kobe highlights while also adding commentary throughout it. Okay, maybe I could watch it, but I don't think I'd be able to add commentary throughout. It would just be terrible. So, you know, we're just gonna go straight to the Greatest Peaks. I'm gonna end up for doing all the rest of the ones in the series. I'm just gonna do one highlight video on them, and then we're gonna do the Greatest Peaks series. So we're gonna look a detailed look at Kobe Bryant's on-court impact. I've done the Greatest Peaks series for a lot of players. So we're just on to Kobe now, so let's go.
After Michael Jordan retired, there was a race to...
We're planning to do this the entire series, so yeah, we're almost done with it. We've done 9 players, I think, so far. Yeah, because we did all the 8 players in the Making the Case series. We've done the Greatest Peaks episode, and now we're on to the 9th, so yeah.
Crown the heir apparent, the next dominant shooting guard who could score, pass, and defend. As we saw last episode, Kobe certainly fit that bill when he was young.
You know you're good when you get called the next Michael Jordan, and people are like, and then once your career's done, people don't roast you.
360-degree dunks, wild shots, and some huge defensive plays under Phil Jackson's tutelage. And that led Bryant to be seen as a Michael Jordan redux because of his build and style.
Some differences, though, definitely.
He wasn't the next Michael Jordan. He was the first Kobe Bryant.
Right. A lot of differences between their games. A lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well.
This series tackles one question. Who was the best at his best? We start at the ABA merger and go through the best multi-year stretches, examining the legends who provided the most on-court impact. These are the greatest peaks.
I'm ready to see this, man. Because Kobe all-time ranking, so this would be from the 06-08 times, his all-time ranking is like, a lot of people disagree. Some people have him as the actual like GOAT. Some people have him top 3. Some people have him not even in the top 10. So he's a guy that gets switched around the all-time ranking. I was curious to see what he would think about his impact.
This is my man. This is Showboat. We call him
18-year-old
Showboat,
Kobe,
y'all
man.
know him as Kobe Bryant. This is my main man. Mark my words. Now, and I said this earlier in the season. It's going to be unbelievable.
Kobe was one of the most versatile, robust scorers in league history. He was kind of like a scoring artist, painting the court in just about every way possible. There were highlight finishes in the air, crafty, creative hoops. That's a street ball move in a playoff game.
What's that?
In a playoff game, that's tough.
Fadeaways
LeBron.
Back to the basket, pull-up jumpers from the mid-range, pull-up jumpers from 3, even up fakes that sent opponents straight to the house of highlights. To illustrate this scoring diversity, take a look at the shot charts of the leading scorers around this time. Larger hexagons mean more attempts, so you can see LeBron's largely rim dominant, and dark red indicates a higher shooting percentage compared to league averages. Now here's Kobe.
Okay.
For better and sometimes worse, he scored from anywhere and everywhere. Some of this blossomed out of necessity. He didn't have MJ's first step or LeBron's bionic size and strength at the hoop.
He didn't have one speciality.
A 28-year-old Bryant had a good first step
he was just pretty good at everything.
High-level athleticism to build off of as a base. He was quick enough to punish slower players or big men out of water. He turned the corner on Tim Duncan like this a few times in the 2008 Western Finals. But he couldn't just blast by players like certain guards who relied on quickness. And it wasn't really acceleration that made Kobe a dangerous penetrator. He used craft, guile, and feel, a little hesitation to start a drive, and he loved this hard spin back at the rim. He heads right here but is cut off, so the spin sheds the defender, and then off the wrong foot adjusts under LeBron to finish.
Adjusting in midair always would be impressive.
And then feeling the defender recover, he spins back hard and leads with his body for free throws. These counters took remarkable balance and body control along with great instinct. Kobe was only around 6'5", barefoot, and he couldn't always elevate over defenders at the hoop. So instead, he might absorb contact while contorting to release a shot, although that didn't work every time. Instead, he was snake-like at slithering into different angles to release the ball in traffic. His crossover was sharp enough to shake opponents, and Kobe senses a recovering Duncan and angles it right up on the glass.
Who's better, Kobe or Duncan?
This time, the finish is different. He's strong enough to stay balanced without losing Bruce Bowen, but because Duncan is stationed under the hoop, Kobe throws his body into him and banks it at his apex. This is subtle, but his
That's a smart way to go
intuition
past
helped him audible
big
at the
interior
rim.
defenders.
When attacking big men in space,
And body first.
he liked that in and out dribble and then altered his stride length as needed approaching the goal. Perhaps the ultimate example of his malleable finishing was his instinct for flowing to the other side of the rim, where he'd throw off a potential shot blocker's timing by striding into a reverse layup. Now, these hesitation moves were so effective because defenses were worried about his
Because he
pull-up,
could shoot
and
anywhere.
he could play these threats
Yeah.
off each other.
If you can shoot a little bit from anywhere, any fake is like really
As the
deadly.
screen comes over, Duncan and Bowen are worried about this shooting pocket, and Bryant uses that against him with a nasty cross. Yet
That was
the
great.
threat of a dribble drive was enough to create airspace for his jump shot. Defenders had to sell out hard on his mid-range game, and that could be a problem.
When you have to commit to like because the entire point of defense is to make them shoot a difficult shot, but because nowhere on the court was a difficult shot for Kobe, you had to commit to like every single place he was. So if you commit to one place, he can get you to that place and then get you to another, so he can get to another place.
Kobe had
Because he can
these
shoot from because he can
fundamentals down.
because he
Know
can
how many
score
of
from
his
anywhere.
Moves come from a triple threat position and involved up fakes or jab steps, and he was so proficient getting to his spot and then rising up. He could also fire fairly accurate shots off a variety of setups, heading to his right or left from just about anywhere on the floor. That one was a long two, and Kobe trafficked in these jumpers just inside the arc, which made for impressive shot making, but also suppressed his overall scoring efficiency. From 2006 to
those
2008,
long twos
he
kill
attempted
ya.
more two-point shots outside of 15 feet than anyone in the NBA. But he only made 41% of them, which is exactly what the rest of the league made on these shots during that period. Kobe's scoring numbers during those
So he wasn't like crazy for the long twos, but he shot way too many long
seasons
twos
were
basically.
the best of his career, but his efficiency lagged a touch behind some of the other huge volume scorers in this series, in part because he bled.
That's the one thing people say when they're trying to dig around Kobe is that his efficiency. I want to see what he says about it.
Not making those long shots worth 3 points when they went in. He was a bit ahead of the curve with his pull-up three-pointer, able to make a respectable 35% of these at decent volume. Many of his shots were really difficult, often scoring despite a large hand in his face. Videographers have sliced together edits of Jordan and Kobe making similar shots, but on this one, Kobe's is way harder, going off of his wrong foot and double clutching before shooting.
Yeah, that's
For
insane.
my money, Bryant is the best tough shot maker in league history. Or
Yes,
certainly the most
100% would agree.
prolific. He'd regularly
100%.
drill jumpers with a hand in his face and almost no airspace.
This is also partly because he had no goddamn teammates. So defenders fully committed to could fully commit to him without worrying about any of his teammates. Because I mean, who are you gonna worry about? Freaking Smush Parker, like for his absolute prime, he had to make all these difficult shots. So he eventually became better when he got good teammates. But yeah, his difficult shot making was insane.
And sometimes he'd fire these at all kinds of crazy angles. He's lost all momentum here, and his feet are actually crossed when he jumps, but hey, no biggie.
That's nuts.
We saw some of this feel with Larry Bird in episode 4. Subtle.
That's the kind of shots that you be playing and you just feel hopeless. Like, bro, I did everything I'm meant to do as a defender, and this guy still made the shot. Like, I don't understand what you want from me.
Adjustments to change the arc of a
Posting
shot
up
in a
LeBron in
tough
a lot of these
spot,
clips.
and this concentration was especially prominent on the backside of his offensive peak
R9
at the
finals.
end of the 2000s, where it was a touch harder to generate clean looks, so this shooting adaptability took over. He could just come to a stop and pump fake players into oblivion and then shoot without any momentum, which is crazy difficult. On many of these, he's jumping from a complete standstill to find just enough room to arc it in. And he could trap defenders with these up fakes, which helped boosted his free throw rates, especially during these peak seasons where he was slightly behind the all-timers, but still went to the line more than most players. He was also an early practitioner of the rip-through move. As we discussed in episode 8 with Akeem Olajuwon, these difficult shot attempts helped Kobe's playoff scoring numbers compared to his regular season ones, because he could still generate moderately efficient shots almost on demand, even against stingier postseason defenses. Of course, he could score with his back to the basket out of the post, where that balance and body control blended with his footwork nicely. He pivots into a tough shot here, but he could just as easily swirl into the lane in the same situation. He went to his post-game a bit more by the end of the 2000s, and he was sturdy enough to bang into little turnarounds, or even use the threat of his fadeaway to set up defenders for the old up and under. In a sense, Kobe and Shaq were scoring opposites. O'Neal dominated with incredibly high percentage shots, whereas Bryant couldn't quite assault the rim with the same frequency, so he propped up his scoring with versatility and resilient shot making. But if there's one thing
Shaq always went dominated with the highest percentage shot that he just could not stop. Kobe dominated by shooting shots that would typically be low percentage shots, but for him were high percentage shots, so you still couldn't stop him. So they were both unstoppable, just in different ways.
Seen throughout this series, it's that scoring.
That's why
alone,
I think it's really hard to determine who you would rank higher all time, Kobe or Shaq.
Doesn't make someone a great player. It's that scoring alone doesn't make someone a great player.
You talking about the defense.
But what I'm seeing an opportunity to really demolish the spirit of their team by attacking
the spirit
offensively. After watching this game, I was really, really upset with myself. I don't see Trevor sitting over there on the wing. Trevor's arms, after the shot goes up, pass it to me. Damn it.
In the 2008 finals, the Celtics' suffocating defensive scheme defanged Bryant, clogging his driving lanes and inviting him to take jumpers. The Celtics overloaded his side when he had possession, and this kind of early rotation would have been illegal.
So I'm going to be talking about his passing.
Or 90s,
I think this would be a weakness,
it was a strategic departure from what other high-end teams tried against the Lakers during their deep playoff runs. For instance, in the 2009 finals, Orlando played these driving lanes straight up, relying on rotations after Kobe penetrated. Without a lightning-quick first step to escape these gambits, or great size to pressure the rim, the Celtics held Kobe to 51% true shooting and shaved 5 points off his 2008 and 2009 playoff scoring. A good reminder that playoff matchups can heavily influence numbers. Boston also banked on Kobe looking to score in some of these tight spots instead of repeatedly passing, the exact point Kobe discussed in that clip against Denver when he missed the kick out to Trevor Ariza. Here he's covered by a bigger man and forces a tough fadeaway into a packed paint instead of kicking it out to a good shooter. Much like we saw in episode 6,
this is a weakness people talk about.
Kobe
passing.
was always a little over-calibrated towards shooting versus playmaking. Here he has 2 corner options when Phoenix collapses into the paint, but probes for an extra beat and it's a turnover. I don't think this small imbalance chipped away at too much value because Kobe could make some of these double-teamed shots, and the rest of the time he was looking to punish defenses who loaded up on his scoring like this by finding open teammates.
Basically, we're saying for most players, if you took a difficult shot instead of giving it to an open teammate, you would get benched. But for Kobe, because he was so good at making the difficult shots, it was still like it didn't hurt his team that much that he shot a difficult shot instead of a teammate shooting an open shot.
He was tactical and often patient about getting opponents to commit to then free up a shooter.
They fish.
As that Nuggets series progressed in 2009, whenever Denver slid a defender down to spy on him, he opted for the kickout pass more and more.
Became a better passer later in his career.
Celtics, there were certainly moments where he missed early passing chances as he hunted for scoring angles that didn't end all that well. Yet, even in that series, he made plenty of early reads. A defender is slid way over into his driving lane here, so he shuffles it to the open shooter. Kobe was known for his studiousness, and he could certainly read and react to how teams shifted toward him in order to generate easy shots for his bandmates. Yes, he shot into plenty of double teams, but he dissected a ton as well. Boston sends help, and these two defenders are covering 3 Lakers, and Kobe threads a dart into the lane for free throws against the clock. Kobe grew up idolizing Magic Johnson, and while he wasn't his equal, he dropped some gorgeous dimes from time to time, or would-be dimes. Some of these passes in dynamic, non-traditional situations demonstrated a strong ability to map the court.
Oh,
and his
that one was
athleticism
nice.
helped with a variety of passing deliveries. Here he feels the help in the air, looks for his big man, and just tries to slap it in his direction.
Oh,
Most of his best passes were to big men.
fitting
like
reaction.
this. There's that patience to wait for help to leave
Oh.
Pau Gasol, and this one takes even sharper vision, finding the rim runner with a jump.
I ain't never
pass
seen
to
this
the
many
front of the cylinder.
Kobe passing highlights. These are great.
Over the course of his career,
Wow.
Kobe's best, most consistent pass was probably the laydown, something he always had great
Iconic.
feel for. Occasionally he'd shoot in these spots, but if he sensed a defender coming over on a drive, he'd usually hone in on his open big man. Here he spots a teammate on the backside, maybe the perfect pass arrives now, but Kobe knows if he collapses the zone, an easier angle will emerge, so he airdrops it over for the layup. And hey, Walton's back. Sort of. Where were we? Laydowns? Kobe would carve these out and then was able to deliver at a variety of angles depending on the situation, going with a soft lefty lob here after being corralled on his drive. The other option in those spots was the kick out, where if defenders pinched down from the perimeter, he could spray it back out for 3-point practice. After 2 hesitation moves, he runs into a wall here, but since the guard sinks in to help on Gasol, the kick out becomes the weakness to exploit.
So I need
Using
D
our
Fish in
best
there.
estimates,
Robert Ory.
Kobe created plenty
Not
of
Robert
shots
Ory
like
in that
this
team,
for
but
teammates, ranking behind only Jordan,
Okay.
James Harden, LeBron James, and Tracy McGrady among non-point guards. Point guard is
That's
sort
pretty-
of a
yeah.
misnomer here, since these are all lead guards.
So his passing is
spearheading
not
the entire
nearly as
offense
much as a
dual
weakness,
threats.
if a
For
weakness
instance,
at all.
Kobe ran plenty of spread
As
pick and
a lot of
roll.
people say.
Notice all the extra space compared to prior episodes, and he could score or playmake out of this action. He didn't really have an ideal pick and roll partner before Gasol, although Andrew Bynum's emergence as a role threat provided a little chemistry in 2007. When Pau did arrive in 2008, Kobe ran the 2-man game with him
Helped
more
a lot.
frequently, and he could pop or
Save the
roll
Lakers.
comfortably next to Bryant. There's a little manipulation from Kobe by using the no-look pass to hold the defender. That one didn't always work, but it shows the capacity for higher-level ideas. He could also make the little pocket pass. This one is delayed until the big commits to Kobe, and then he threads the needle beautifully. And while he didn't anticipate tons of passes, he could drop wonderful dimes after reacting to the defense.
Ooh.
The big man contests, so he audibles by bouncing it through a tight window.
Yeah.
The Kobe Pau pick and roll was a nasty option to fall back on late in a possession. That look-away technique holds the help defense. This time it's successful, and Pau could pass off the roll too. On this one, the defense sits on Gasol's roll, so Kobe whips it to Lamar Odom, who makes the extra pass, and both Laker big men could pass or finish in these spots. 2008 was a huge upgrade in roster construction from prior seasons, where mediocre shooters and passers
Very big
Kobe,
upgrade.
Lamar, and utility big men. Odom was always able to create some offense and act as a secondary playmaker next to Kobe, but
Well,
Gasol
nice.
took the Lakers to another level with his diverse offensive
Right. Save the
package.
Lakers.
His post-game made him an all-NBA level player, stocked with a full pantry of post moves that includes soft touches with his right and left hand around the basket.
Definitely deserves to be in the Hall of
After
Fame.
his arrival, the Lakers' offense exploded. From 2008 to 2010, LA's playoff efficiency was about 6.5 points better than what their opponents allowed in the regular season. Since Kobe's offense slowed down a bit, Chopping off 2010 might better capture this team at its brief peak, a fantastic stretch that was a rung down from the all-time greats.
Wow.
There were a few holes in Kobe's passing game. He was willing to try tight passes. This one is picked off, but it's also a delivery issue where if he doesn't throw it higher, he needs to throw it earlier or with a different delivery angle altogether. He didn't really whip fastballs off the dribble at different angles like some players, and instead he often tried some of these tight
Yeah, it wasn't like
squeezes
a
in the air in
all-time
lieu of shooting.
passer.
These all might be
But
audibles out
it's
of
definitely not a
shots,
weakness
but I wonder if
from
he
what
went to the
we've
jump
seen
pass
here.
because he wasn't that big. Size could bother him on traps and lead to some blind spots. We saw the
Yeah.
much taller Lamar.
Size
Odom
definitely an
make this
issue in
exact
passing when you're
pass
getting
a
covered by
second
that many
ago.
defenders.
And Kobe was inconsistent about hitting the roll man on this action when the defending big man jumped him hard. He also missed some straightforward passes. That's there for the taking, and in my study, he mostly seemed to miss wings and smalls in these home run situations. So while he had some limitations as a passer, his playmaking was an enormous part of his offensive attack, but his offense wasn't nearly as polarizing as his controversial defense.
Ooh, okay.
Bryant's size was also a small factor on the defensive end. For instance, he had mixed results holding down the fort against bigger, stronger players in the post. There are some plays where the engagement isn't entirely there, and then others where he battles hard with more success. Similarly, Kobe wasn't much of a vertical presence around the basket. When he was near the rim, he often went to a swipe down move, and sometimes
definitely
he
more of a
connected
perimeter-
beautifully and did the trick.
Perimeter defender.
On occasion, he turned a running start into a highlight block, but these high leverage plays were less common. Kobe averaged a block every other game during these years and only provided occasional rim protection as a guard.
Those blocks are
These
satisfying,
rotations
though.
in the paint can provide tons of value for a wing, and Kobe could be floor bound on them, and he couldn't afford to arrive late in these spots. He should have rotated here once the double team arrived. Although in general, he was usually pretty buttoned up with most of his rotations, tagging the big man in pick and roll either from the baseline or elbow area, and this is a great sequence where he re-helps on the drive, then recognizes the corner is open and runs the shooter off the line. Unlike the facial he received a second ago, this time he's really helping the helper, and being early on these rotations is key for a wing versus a big man. He can deter the pass or deflect it, but arrive a step later and he would swipe for the ball, and that's a foul. Around 2006,
You gotta be good at predictions, predicting, like seeing into the future and like predicting what you're gonna do, predicting what the player is gonna do before they do it. If you're guarding someone larger, so you can do stuff like getting a steal. Okay, I'm sounding really stupid, but like, you know what I mean, right? It's if a big man gets the ball and you're a much smaller player, you're kind of done for, unless you get significant help. Okay, you have to do stuff before they get the ball to play good defense on
Bryant
them.
emerged
Most
as
of the
a
time.
vocal leader on defense. You can see him pointing on this play as LA switches a number of actions here, and this was in conjunction with the Lakers playing more complex schemes. They zoned up or switched the weak side constantly as the league adopted more pick and roll offense. Although these rotations weren't always super crisp, for example, he's a little late sliding here and that leads to a desperate closeout. In general, Kobe wasn't super active on the weak side like this, not making a ton of plays. That's sort of an errant gamble there. And when he staked out these situations, he was quite vulnerable to backdoor cuts. He was actually vulnerable to backdoors in general throughout his career, tracking the ball a bit too hard, and when zoning 2, he took a somewhat extreme stance toward the ball handler and could idle a bit. And this responsibility is really about anticipation and effort. It's what made Larry Bird dangerous in these spots, and I'm not sure Kobe had the motor to go full tilt on plays like these and carry his enormous offensive
Right.
load. Back on offense, Bryant drained additional fuel by moving without the ball, regularly working.
It's hard to give 100 like full, like insane level effort on both ends. You have to like some ends you're gonna have to slouch a little bit,
for
you
better
know,
position in the post and staying active in order to
on
pressure
some plays at
defenses.
least.
When he was overplayed, he had a nice back cut himself to escape defenders, and he could comfortably flow into catch and shoot options in the mid-range. This meant he could fit well next to other high-level passers, but it also meant that he couldn't rest much on offense. So without an all-time motor, Kobe couldn't go full throttle on defense for 40 minutes as well. Here he lapses for just a moment and loses contact with Ray Allen. They wisely switched him off Allen for the rest of the series after this. And while he could do solid work chasing players around, he wasn't ideal for this kind of task at this point in his career. He could get a bit stuck at times navigating around screens, especially against bigger screeners like this, although he was pretty good at dipping his shoulder around them and staying fairly connected to his man. His footwork in these spots wasn't always perfect. Big steps can make it tricky to bypass screens, but Kobe works hard to recover and stay in front of the ball here.
Yeah, that was really good.
He couldn't always bring
Defense.
this level of intensity. He kind of hops his way out of position against a dangerous pull-up three-point shooter here, although when he did go all out, he could provide good point-of-attack defense. And this on-ball defense is what kept him on all defensive teams long after his defensive peak that we saw in the last episode. He was versatile guarding the perimeter, able to chip away a little at bigger forwards, and in particular, switch on to point guards.
He seemed to be a really skilled defender. He just didn't go 100% of the time because of so much energy he was putting on the offensive end. Because he was carrying them on offense by so much.
In their 2008 series, Kobe had successful moments against the lightning-quick Tony Parker, and here you'll notice he shades him left by design into the help. Bryant seems as studious and technical with his defense as he was with his offense, only he wasn't that disruptive as a defender, blowing up screening actions or flying into the lane to choke out advantages. This is a great bit of awareness in transition, sliding over to stop the ball, but plays like that were rare during these years, and Kobe's steal rate was around the 75th percentile historically, which was good but not great for a guard. As we've seen, he could attack the ball by pawing at it like this, although there were a number of plays where he was reaching for a steal, and that left him out of position. In a 2007 game, Phil Jackson
always
said
happens,
he had some riverboat gambler in him, and while I don't think he gambled nearly as much as someone like Jordan, he had his fair share of whiffs.
Literally.
He liked to shoot the gap, and this was also how he collected some of his steals, and those interceptions were more memorable and look great on highlight reels. Kobe also had his fair share of blow-bys off the dribble against quicker guards, although some great defenders can be susceptible to breakdowns like this, so I don't think they chipped away at too much of his value. Impact metrics like adjusted plus-minus or PIPM tend to view him as around neutral on defense, and I think that's in the right ballpark given his lack of involvement in the paint and sporadic guarding of opposing lead guards. But despite his lack of a defensive motor, I think his understanding of schemes combined with his versatility to provide effective point-of-attack defense against three positions makes him a small positive on that end.
Only a small
positive. The
positive.
Question is just how high were his offensive heights? He could be shot heavy at times, but his insane shot making provided a ton of resiliency in the playoffs. After all, the only defense to really slow him down during those years was the historically great Celtics.
Right.
While most of his value came with the ball, his off-ball skills were strong enough to provide impact next to other high-level teammates. And so, while his defense might
we didn't see that much. He didn't have many high-level teammates after Shaq.
Best, it's easy to see why so many people view Kobe Bryant as one of the best offensive players to ever grace the hardwood.
Alright, so main thing I was shocked about this video is that the defensive end, I thought he would because Kobe Bryant made so many all-defensive teams. Do you think he incorrectly made those all-defensive teams, or do you think he's underrating his defense a lot here? Is the main thing I wanted to know about this, because we all knew Kobe Bryant was an all-time offensive player. He did correct the notion that he's not a good passer. A lot of people say, oh, Kobe Bryant, he was not as good at playmaking, he was selfish, but he kind of said, well, he saw some point to that, but he mostly said that he was a positive on the passing end of the playmaking, and he was a major part of his game. So, yeah, where would you rank Kobe Bryant all time? And do you agree or disagree with the points he made in the video? And, yeah, we're going to do more of the Greatest Peak series, and I'm going to be making a lot more original NBA videos. So, yeah, bye.